Welcome back to the Wicked Game Podcast, and for the first time on video.
Ooh, HD.
Not quite. I don't think so anyway.
We're now up to 2 senses, ears and eyes. See what I mean? Next we'll do feeling, smells, I don't know.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
As in like, we've now hit 2 sensories.
I see. Two senses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. We're evolving.
Yeah.
Smells and tastes.
Well, welcome back everybody for this special video edition of the Wicked Game Podcast. It's been a minute. It's been a hot minute, guys. We've been playing a lot of video games, and I thought we'd better do a update of the podcast before next Thursday happens, and we're all going to be very, very busy with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I thought I'd do a podcast and we'd talk about all the games that we've been playing over the past few weeks, just to make sure that we're all caught up before the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. So, without further ado, what have we been playing? Let's start off in chronological order of most recent.
Should we go for...
Reverse chronological order.
Yeah.
From most recent.
No. Surely should be in release order.
No, we're not doing that. Let's do what's freshest in our mind at the moment,
okay.
which is Blueprints.
So fresh, we played it 2 seconds ago.
So fresh. we were playing it only moments ago. Blueprints. So, if in case you don't know, so Blueprints is a point-and-click mystery puzzle exploration game. Would you say it's a pretty accurate one sentence description of what the game is?
Yeah.
It's free at the moment on PlayStation Plus if you have that. And I think, to be honest, more people would be talking about this game if it wasn't for the fact that it launched on the same week as Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which we are going to be talking a lot about later, of course. But MK, you've been playing this more than I have. We've been sort of playing it together, but it's been mostly you leading this. Before we go into any of the details, what is your sort of elevator pitch summary of this game? Your one sentence review.
I think it's for people that don't need a story to follow the game. Because I, for example, don't always like following a story in a game. So if you're sort of looking for something that has a really in-depth story, this isn't for you. It's a really big puzzle game. A lot of it you do really have to sit and think and find things and connect the dots. A lot of the game is finding one thing 1 minute and having to wait hours to understand where that connects in the game. So it's definitely for people that enjoy puzzles and thinking and figuring things out, as opposed to, well, there's no combat in it at all. It is literally puzzles, clicking on things, picking things up, figuring out where that goes.
Yeah, it reminds me of those old school point and click mystery games that we used to have back on Windows 98.
Myst is the one that it reminds me of.
You played Myst. We had this Ace Ventura Pet Detective mystery game, which obviously, being Pet Detective game, is kind of, it makes sense that it was going to be a point and click mystery. So I had something. Well, I had that game, I think, on Windows 98 or Windows 95, whichever one it was. And this is kind of very reminiscent of that, obviously a lot more serious and a lot bigger and expansive than that. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I think, it does remind me of the game Myst. I don't know about your game, but I never played it. I used to watch my dad and brother play it for absolute hours and just go over these puzzles. So I really like puzzle games. I like trying to figure it out. There's the kind of games that I like the most, and I think I'm quite quick at figuring out puzzles.
Yeah.
So in that way, when you're good and quick at something, obviously it's more enjoyable. My enjoyment levels have changed, but I'm sure we'll get into the detail of the games. But overall, I think it is a good game. It's a good puzzle game. It's one of probably, I would say up there, one of my favourite games so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would agree to a certain extent. I definitely think this game is probably going to get nominated for Game of the Year. Maybe not for the main Game of the Year prize, but maybe for one of the indie categories. as I say, if it wasn't for the fact that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 came out the same week, I think this would be getting a lot more attention, and people would be talking about it a lot like they were talking about Balatro last year. For me, it's very entertaining, and it did draw me in the first few hours of the game. What I'm finding now is I'm getting increasingly put off and frustrated with it. We have now put in 30 plus hours.
Yeah, but I think that's because we've been playing as a team.
Yeah. I think a little bit is that due to that. Obviously, it's a one-player game, single-player game. But I've been getting very frustrated because I feel like after 30 hours, we really should have made a bit more headway, and we should have probably uncovered the mystery by now. But we haven't. And I think for a kind of a point-and-click detective sort of game like this, it should been capped to 20-ish hours. Basically, the premise of the game, we haven't even told you the premise of the game. Essentially, you play as a young lad who has inherited or is due to inherit this property from a relative who's died. I think it's his great uncle or something like that, his grandfather, I'm not sure which off the top of my head. And this property that you're inheriting from him, in order to actually fully inherit it, you have to find room 46, is it? 46th room, and every day when you enter this house and you go from room to room, the rooms change, and so you have to solve all the puzzles, which obviously is based on sometimes what room randomly appears for you, and then eventually discover a way of entering room 46. And obviously we're 30 plus hours in, and we're still, I don't know how much further we have, to be honest. There's nothing at the moment which makes me think this is the road that we need to go down in order to unlock this mystery and find room 46.
I think the problem, and not maybe in a negative way, sort of using that word, lack of a better word, the problem is that there's a lot of puzzles that you're trying to figure out, and they're not necessarily part of the main plot. So you find a puzzle that you think, wow, I'm onto it here, and you spend hours trying to unlock this puzzle. The reason why you find hours is every time you play, the game looks different to how you maybe have played an hour ago. As you said, it resets. And so it takes hours sometimes to come back around to the beginning of that puzzle. So for example, there was a puzzle that we had to figure out that included several different rooms that we needed to load in the house. I appreciate this might not make sense if you played the game, but sometimes those rooms don't load, and they might not load for 3-4 hours, and so you can't then, you're trying to figure out this puzzle, but the pieces are almost not coming together, maybe for several hours until they then do, and then you might not figure it out, and then it's like having to wait several hours again for that sort of luck to come back around. And then you find out that's actually nothing to do with the main plot, that's a side quest that gave you extra coins for the day. Yeah. So that's what's kind of frustrating. Like, we spent hours trying to unlock one of these puzzles, and we thought this was it, this was the main puzzle, and then we found out it just unlocked something really, really small, and you're like, oh, I thought this was the main. So you don't know what the main plot is, you're just looking at puzzles and trying to figure out what they are. So that's really difficult. There's a couple of negative things I don't like. The writing in it is so tiny.
Isn't the physical text on some of the clues is very difficult to read. We must have,
a 50-inch screen? 45-inch screen? So like a good size TV, and it's so tiny. And I do find that, as I've just mentioned, because you're waiting for these sort of things to align to retry the puzzle. For example, I was playing it just now, and I couldn't get into this certain room because I didn't have enough gems. You buy rooms by gems. And I thought, great, so I'm not going to see that room again now for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so that's irritating, because you're just trying to churn out the hours to get this special room that I'm trying to get into. Yeah. So that is frustrating.
Yeah, for me it's become very frustrating, and if it wasn't for you, I would have sacked this game off long ago. But you're very good at puzzle games and you persist with them. I don't like puzzle games, so if I was playing this alone, I would have sacked this off long ago. However, I still want to find out what the ending is. I hope it's going to be good. If it's not, I'm going to be very annoyed. I hope it pays off, but we'll see. I still think it's a very good game, very ambitious game, and the amount of work that must have gone into this, because it's like the programming and the algorithms to have to have designed this game has been so complex. So, you know, I do really appreciate the game for what it is, and you know, I would recommend it if you're into these sort of point and click puzzle games.
Puzzles. If you like to think about things and piece, like as we said, you have to piece things together. So something you might see in hour 1, you might not realise what that is until like hour 30, and you're like, oh, so throughout the game, for example, we've had to make notes. You have to make notes. There are puzzles, written puzzles that you won't even know are happening because you need to write them down, and then you'll notice that's a puzzle. So things like that. We've taken photos. There's absolutely no way you can just play this game. You have to be sort of, you know, hustling at it.
Yeah. It's not a casual play.
No. I like puzzle games. I find them very rewarding. I get good endorphins off figuring out puzzles, and I'm quick at puzzles. I have a brain that can see patterns really easily, so I think that's why I'm good at them and I get that satisfaction, whereas I don't think you're as quick as seeing the puzzles, so maybe that's why you find them a bit frustrating. But as you said, we're hour 30.
But I'm quite good at solving some of the riddles though.
The worded riddles, yeah, I can't do those. I'm more visual riddles I can really get, puzzles I can really get. So yeah, I'm not. I think I'm sort of starting to get there now, where because you don't know how far you are from the end either. That's what's I think really, really difficult. Is, you know, in a lot of games I like to see, I've made it halfway through the plot, so I know I'm making progress.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way to see progress.
If it's a narrative focused game, then you know, roughly speaking, how far along you are of the story, but we have no idea. We could be playing this for another 30 hours and still not find it. And some of the comments that I've seen online, some people have said they've been able to uncover the mystery within like the first couple of hours, and some people have said they've not uncovered it until like hour 60 plus. So
I don't feel like that could be true though, because a lot of the things that you discover, from what I can see in the game, is you have to play so many hours for so many things to unlock.
Well, that's what we thought, but I've looked this up. Apparently, you can find room 46 within the first day of the game.
I don't feel like that could be true, but fine.
No, it is, and there's an achievement as well on PlayStation for it if you do it in the first day. So it's definitely possible.
Well, now I just feel like all the puzzles that I'm trying to do, then there's nothing to do with it then.
Possibly. Some of them don't progress the story. They just
that's what I mean.
They just give
you
you bad rewards, and then you thought that was going to be the puzzle that was going to unearth room 46.
Yeah, this is the problem. So, but I think it's a great game. I think you know, I would call it a basic game, but has a lot of depth to it. Yeah,
absolutely. We definitely recommend it if that's your type of game. And as I say, it's free on PlayStation Plus at the moment. Why can't I say that? It's free on PlayStation Plus. You
have to hustle. That's what
at the moment. So do check it out if that's your thing. Next game I want to talk about, this one right here. Everybody's favourite game at the moment. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. There's not really a lot that I can say to add towards the dialogue that's already out there on this game at the moment. You've probably all heard about it by now. It appeared seemingly out of nowhere a few weeks ago from a relatively independent developer. It's taken the world by storm. It's got so many 9 and 10 out of 10 reviews. All I'm going to say on this is that it's deserved. I'm not going to go into any technical aspects of the game right now. I just want to say that the TLDR on it is that it is a 10 out of 10 game, and the kind of the summary that I want to get across in this video, in this podcast, is that the reason for that is, for me, just because it's a fun game to play. I'm just having so much fun with it. I'm just really enjoying it, and at the end of the day, that's what video games are for, right? For us to enjoy
One would hope, yeah.
And I think a lot of the dialogue about this has been about how, the mechanics are so good, the music's so good, the story's so good. 100% agree, but fundamentally, it's just fun to play. I'm having a blast with it. I'm about 35 hours into the game. I'm near the end game. I think I'm in that kind of period where I can now go and beeline straight to the final boss, or I can play about doing all the side quests and get super leveled up so that the final boss is really easy. And I'm in sort of that phase at the moment. I don't want to get too overpowered, so I'm just one-shotting the final boss.
That's crazy to think
However-
you're like 30 hours in, which is the same as Blueprint, and you know you're at the end when you compare it like that.
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming so anyway. It's at that period in a game where you know you're about to go face the final boss sort of thing. And I just having so much fun with it. So it is a turn-based RPG. In fact, the exact description, I saw this here on the back whilst I was looking at this last night, is a reactive turn-based combat system. So rather than it just be, a usual Final Fantasy RPG turn-based system, there is parrying mechanics in this. Similar to that of a Soulsborne game, and it's very serious, that parrying. First 3 hours of the game, I was terrible at it.
Sorry, I just stifled a yawn. And I
This is you.
and I just thought the comments going to be like, she ain't got a clue what's going on.
You've not been playing it. So first 3 hours of this game, I was absolutely terrible. In fact, I'm still terrible at it on medium and hard difficulty. I'm playing it on easy because I just couldn't get the parrying locked down. So it's one of those kind of games where you either have to die a couple of times trying to learn the enemy's patterns, so you can then learn the patterns and successfully parry at the enemy, or use the mechanics in this to load up on different stats so that you're overpowered and you have loads of buffs that then help you defeat the enemy. And it's just really, really fun. Yes, the storyline is great. It's kind of reminiscent of some of the older Final Fantasy sort of games. This is really, everybody keeps saying it. This is what Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Legend of Dragoon, those sort of games kind of used to be, and it's the sort of game that you wish that Final Fantasy would be now, and hopefully Square Enix will learn a lesson from this, that turn-based combat can be engaging and interactive and fun, and that's what people want. The music is chilling and absolutely romantic and beautiful and fantastic, and I love it. I've been listening to the soundtrack throughout this week whilst working as well, and again the music as well matches up perfectly to some of the scenes. It's absolutely fantastic. It's everything that people say about this game is true. The rumors are true. It is a 10 out of 10 game. Is it perfect? No. But I think it definitely deserves 10 out of 10, purely for the fact that I'm enjoying it this much. And I really do recommend this to absolutely everybody.
I hate turn-based games. When I did Baldur's Gate for 1 second, after me 3 hours to get my character
This is actually, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I was going to compare it with Baldur's Gate 3 and I forgot. So
great, I'll zone out again.
Yeah, zone out again. So Baldur's Gate 3 also received heaps of acclaim at the time, and since then as well. And I agree, and I put well over 100 hours into Baldur's Gate. I think it's an incredible game. However, this is completely different to that. It's so much more enjoyable than Baldur's Gate 3 was. At times, or at a lot of times, Baldur's Gate 3 could be tedious, but it's still an incredible game. It's still a 9, potentially 10 out of 10 game, and I appreciate it for what it is. But from an enjoyment factor, this game, Expedition 33, beats Baldur's Gate 3 hands down. Okay, mechanically it might not be as good because it's not as in depth and yada 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 or whatever, but Expedition 33 is so much more engaging than Baldur's Gate 3, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a lot shorter as well. As I said, I'm about 35 hours in. I think I probably could have beaten the final boss maybe 10 hours ago or whatever, as opposed to 100 hours in Baldur's Gate 3. But it's not the turn-based that you think it is. It's very different to the kind of the CRPG mechanics of Baldur's Gate 3. It's a lot more engaging. You have to parry in this game or dodge. And 10 out of 10 would recommend it to absolutely everybody. It's my game of the year so far. I wonder if anything can knock it off that top chart for me.
I'm sure when the Wii comes. Oh, the Wii?
The Wii.
The Wii. What year am I in? I zoned out really back to 2000. The Switch.
2006. Switch 2, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Right, what other games have we been playing? I've been playing loads recently. I've got a list here.
Yeah, what's next on that?
Oh, do you want to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Can do, yeah. Can go there next. I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan. Just to get anybody who doesn't know, I do love those games. I'm a massive fan, I think, of the originals, more Assassin's Creed 2 and 3. those for me are just like my all-time like historic favourite games. This one, I think I had sort of high hopes for this one. What was the one before? Assassin's Creed...
Valhalla, which you didn't play.
No, it must have been the one before then. Which is the one?
Which is Assassin's Creed... not Origins.
No, Origins I really liked. That one I did really like. I think it was the one after Origins.
Odyssey.
No, Odyssey I didn't like. Yeah, I think
Once in Ancient Greece.
some of the new ones for me are sort of rather a hit or a miss. Like Origins I really liked. That was good. I feel like they're becoming too open world, which I appreciate. Probably a lot of people probably wanted them to be, but I think for me, I struggle with too much open world. I really lack a direction in the game. I really like to know that I'm going from A to B to C, and to have that narrative set on side quest, but to have that really know where I'm going. So I think the reason why I haven't particularly got on with the new Assassin's Creed is because, like, and I've spoken to friends about this also, and they've said the same, is that there's no direction. So basically, once all of the cutscenes are finished from the beginning, which there are a lot of cutscenes, that's what I really struggle with this game, is it's more cutscenes than action. And it's just like, come on. And I appreciate, maybe that's not for me, as I've mentioned, I'm not a huge person on the storyline. The storyline of games doesn't really bother me. So I'm like trying to get through these cutscenes, but then I'm not paying attention, so then I don't know where I'm meant to be going. But in this game, there's no direction. It's a case of, here's all the people that you need to go and assassinate. Pick one and go with that, and find them.
There's no signposting, am I right, on the map? When you need to go and assassinate somebody, you'll be told it's near these mountains. Then you have to look on the map to see where
potentially where they could be, and then so it's a good game from that perspective. As in, like, you know, it's different. You know, you don't know where these people are. You have to go out and find them and figure out and use that more intel. Yeah. So from that, it's great. I think I love the different weather that you can get in it. Like the rain is like, when it's rainy and stormy, that's really cool. And the way that your characters react to that is cool, because obviously then they're more stealthy, because technically they can't really hear them because the weather's so noisy. Yeah. And I really like how the characters move and the different ways they jump off buildings, jump on. Like, that for me is really nice, and that's what I love about Assassin's Creed, is the parkour. That's obviously, I think... Parkour is the thing that most people like about Assassin's Creed, right? So that is done beautifully, but the cutscenes are too much for me, and the no direction. But that's just the way I like to play games, isn't it? I know I like to. So I am really falling out of love with the Assassin's Creed games, which is such a shame, because as you know, I still happily go back and play 2 and 3, and I could play those endlessly and be really happy. And those I find really great to have a direction. I need to spend more time. I haven't really spent a lot of time on it. I don't think I've probably even hit 10 hours. Probably.
I think you have hit 10 hours.
You think 10? But I think because we had Split Fiction, which I know we'll come on to, then we have Blueprints, so this hasn't been on the top of my list to go and play, which probably shows that I haven't really enjoyed it very much. I had to, like you were saying, I had to put it on easy, because the stealth on this is really, really hard. Like, the stealth sort of requirement is really high, which, again, I'm sure people are trolling me in the comments saying, well, that's the point of the game, and I get that. But it's really hard, though. So I don't really like putting games on easy. I don't want to just plough through it that quickly. Yeah. But it was getting irritating. And I'm not very good at playing by the rules in games, and it was just irritating me that I couldn't go places, so I put it on easy. For me, games like this should be play to switch off. Like, I'm just switching off, as opposed to probably any strategy around it.
Yeah.
But I probably need to go back. I've not gone to the other character yet, so I'm probably not that far in the game. But the cutscenes, I think, is my biggest takeaway. I'm actually playing it not in English as well, because I thought it'd be really nice to be immersed in Japanese, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, because that makes me feel immersed in the game. But then again, I have to really pay attention to the subtitles, because when you're playing the game, I'm not just hearing the characters around and listening to what they're saying. I actually have to read it, which, again, I'm sure people are saying, why don't you just turn that off then and listen to it in English? But I just think that was cool and something different that I could do.
Yeah.
That's why I chose to do that. So, yeah, I think the jury's out. I need to go back and play a couple more hours. I think for me, sometimes games take a long time to get into, as in understand the mechanics. And especially like this game, you know, I think you have to have a good run with it to remember where things are and what you were doing. Because I feel like if I pick it up now, I'm going to be going, where was I going?
Yeah, the modern Assassin's Creed games are just huge. You need to put 60 plus hours into them to get anywhere, really.
I do think it's one of those franchises now that should just stop.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not, because it's probably the only franchise that is making Ubisoft any money at the moment.
Well, yeah.
They're going to pump them out. They've got a mobile game coming up, rumoured. They've got Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, which is supposedly, rumour has it, coming out this year. There's another one called Assassin's Creed Hex, which I believe stars witches. What they're going to try and do is just pump out as many as possible, because that is the franchise that makes them money. But then they've completely lost what made Assassin's Creed special in the first place.
I think they've probably lost any new market, but kept people like me and like you would always say, oh, it's a new game coming out, let's buy it. And we buy it because, I like Assassin's Creed, so we buy it.
Yeah.
As opposed to probably new people who don't know the history and then would buy it.
I do think there's a chunk of their target audience as well who actually just sees a generic open world action adventure game and just buys that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, jury's out. I think that's sort of where we are. Maybe next time I've got to invest some more hours in it, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Welcome back to our YouTube listeners. If you didn't notice, we disappeared because the battery died. Those of you listening on the podcast, on Spotify, etc., won't have noticed any difference. But here we are, we're back. We want to talk next about Overcooked 2, which we've also been playing on the PS5. MK, talk us through Overcooked 2.
Oh, the pressure now, to describe what it is.
It's a lot of pressure. Just like in the game, there's a lot of pressure.
There is a lot of pressure. So, I feel like the general gist of it is you are in a kitchen making dishes. And you can play, well, it is a multiplayer game. I think you can technically probably play by yourself, but you probably wouldn't want to.
The AI is bad.
Yeah, the AI is bad. So you're in a kitchen and you're making dishes and you're playing, usually as we've just said, with somebody else, and you might be have different roles in the kitchen. For example, one of you might be chopping the chicken, and one of you might be frying the chips, for example. So you're in this kitchen together and you're trying to make dishes. So you're trying to build the dishes together. So sometimes it might be a case of the room is split. So someone over there, they have something that you need over here, and you're trying to bring the dishes together. So for example, I might have the frying machine, also known as a deep fat fryer, but you might have the potatoes.
Yeah.
So it's like you having to chop the potatoes, throw them to me so I can then put them in the fryer. So it really is a co-op game. You really have to communicate well.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
It is, and when we play, we end up shouting at each other. I think everybody ends up shouting at each other.
I think that is the meme of the game.
There is a bit of a meme. Look it up on TikTok or Instagram. You'll see what we mean by that meme. It does become very high pressure, and you end up shouting at each other. We started playing this, I think, maybe last year, and put it down because we got stuck. So then we picked it up again, managed to get past the level we were stuck on, and then got stuck again because it's so fast-paced. Getting these dishes turned around, it can be very difficult.
So it's probably worth adding to that there is a timer on it. And you have to make so many dishes in a certain time. Yeah. It's very similar to a lot of sort of phone cooking games, like apps, where your customers get angry as the dishes cut. So the dishes start to build up that you need to progress, and the customers that are waiting for it potentially get angry. You get tips, like monetary tips, not written tips. And that helps you again progress. At the end of each round, you have to serve so many dishes and make so much money.
Yeah.
So I love this kind of game. These are the kind of little cute games I love to play, but they can end up with the people that you're playing very aggressive.
Yeah, I think it's fun if you've got half an hour free. It's fun if you want to. You've got some friends or family around, and you just want to show them something, a little fun game to play that gets everybody laughing.
Yeah,
I think it's
easy to pick up, so it's definitely a good game to, as you said, to pick up and put down. I think you're right. I think sometimes what's happened is it can get very frustrating, so then you sort of have to put it down. I think you get quite fatigued quite quickly, which is why I think when you were saying the level that we were on that we had to put down, but when we picked that up we can do it. It's just because you get fatigued. All the kitchens or each levels are different rooms, so each room or kitchen would have a different setup of where the machines or chopping boards or foods are, and also would be different meals. So there's like sushi rounds, there's like burgers, chips,
and it gets progressively more difficult, and things like the platforms where you're working will move around, and there'll be like escalators or floor escalators, whatever.
Yeah, they can only go in one direction. You can
only
only
go
walk
one direction,
in one direction.
and things like that. And
yeah. I like it. I think it's a good game. Maybe it's because I like putting things together, as in like, it's almost like, if you like me, I like games like Tetris and block games. To me, that's how it kind of would fit in with that, because it's like, these are the colours that I have to put together, or these are the things I have to put together. I wish I could play it by myself, but you can't really on Overcooked 2. I have tried, but it's clunky. You can't.
Yeah. The AI isn't very good.
I do have a cooking game on the Switch though. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe Cooking Mama or something.
It's a bit like Diner Dash.
Yeah, one of those. I like those. When you gotta put the pizzas together, or I feel like it's Cooking Mama is one.
I can tell you, Cooking Mama is one, but it's not that. Breakfast Bar Tycoon.
Nice. I've quite a few on there, I think. I've had a few, I think.
What's the least it?
So the
last one you played was called Breakfast Bar Tycoon.
Yeah, so that one is breakfast foods, if you will.
Obviously. I've also been playing recently, and this is a real big coincidence considering the t-shirt you're wearing. I've been playing the Turtles Cowabunga collection. Been revisiting some of the games that I played when I was a little bit younger, in particular the Nintendo, the NES Turtles game. And do you know what? I didn't enjoy returning to this. It was a little bit nostalgic, but like so many games of that era are just so difficult. I think Angry Video Game Nerd did an episode on this specific Turtles game that I'm referring to. So I delved into that, played a little bit of it. It was nice to visit memory lane, but I don't think I'll be returning to that anytime soon. Great collection, great that it's got all those games together from the old Pixel games from for the Ninja Turtles from the past. But as I say, won't be returning to it anytime soon. Also been playing Final Fantasy IV on the Nintendo DS. I always forget how good of a console this little thing is. It's just so convenient, isn't it? I don't know why I'm showing this to you, like you don't know what Nintendo DS is, but I just find it so convenient to play this on the tube on the way to work. When we go out shopping or anything like that, and I can just whip it out and just play on it. Final Fantasy IV is known as one of the better Final Fantasy games, particularly obviously of the Pixel era. It's quite difficult though. I wouldn't say I'm struggling with it, but there's a lot of times where I'll have to go, okay, I'm going to have to go away now and grind for several hours. I'm in the point where you're in the underworld or underground, and I'm just entered the second palace, and the enemies there are much harder than outside, and I spent ages grinding the enemies on the outside before entering the second castle, and now the enemies in the castle are very difficult. So I might have to go back and try and grind again. But it's been a very enjoyable experience. I keep picking up this game and playing it for like several hours and then putting it down, forgetting about it for a few weeks, then picking it back up again. So I don't know at what point I'm just going to sit down and actually finish this game. But I really want to, because I've never actually finished any of the old Pixel Final Fantasy games, and so the Nintendo DS is the perfect console to play it on when I'm out and about on my commutes and stuff like that. So hopefully I can finish that soon. Split Fiction. Should we talk about Split Fiction for a little bit?
Go for it.
So we've also recently been playing Split Fiction, which is the follow-up to It Takes Two, obviously the cooperative game that took the world by storm a few years ago and won Game of the Year. This is the follow-up to that. What do you think of it, MK? What's your elevator pitch, your kind of summary review of that game?
I think it's a great game to play with friends, partners, what have you. I think it's a nice game to play together. It's a lot of communication. I quite like games like this where it's a co-op game. It's as in you're playing together to have tasks. It's puzzles again, right? Clear as a theme here. Playing together.
Well, it's a bit more action focused, but yeah.
Yeah, but you still have the puzzles in terms of figuring out how to get to places and unlock things. I think the first part of it was really, really great. It had a lot of good different things. Like, they think the worlds that they build are very outside the box. For example, the land with the pigs, for example, that's very different.
Yeah, that was just so fun.
Things like that. I also like there was a lot of hints to games that I have played, like retro games. For example, Portal, one of my favourite games of all time, also like referencing that. So a lot of games that you can see that they've taken the sort of inspiration from, which is really, really nice.
Yeah,
nice to see.
There was nods to many games that inspired them, and so I really, really appreciated that. I preferred it to It Takes Two, I think. I just found that the action was more enjoyable. The game as a whole wasn't as frustrating, in my opinion. I did find it was very similar to obviously It Takes Two, and for that reason, I don't think it will be remembered as much as obviously It Takes Two, because it won Game of the Year after all. I did find at times that some of the puzzles were quite tricky in terms of that there wasn't an obvious solution to them, and they were quite finicky and tedious at times, which annoyed me a little bit. Like, there was one where you had to get, I think, the heads matched up, and there was kind of no kind of clear way to actually work out you had to have done that, so you just kind of had to do it at random.
I don't remember that.
And that was a little bit frustrating. I think some of the action sequences were actually much more enjoyable than It Takes Two, and fast paced, which was good. The story wasn't as emotionally impactful as It Takes Two, and I found the British character kind of a little bit annoying at times. It's kind of that kind of classic storytelling trope of two people come together who are very polar opposites, very different, and then obviously the big start becoming friends. But I didn't really enjoy it, and I would recommend it.
I think it's nice to play with all levels of people, as in people that don't have particular gaming background or sort of love for games. However, I do think it is difficult if you've never played games before.
Absolutely. We've got a friend who said to us that they tried to play with their girlfriend who had never played video games before properly, and they just couldn't play it. It was too difficult for them to just jump in and start playing. When you don't understand sort of the physics of a video game, you do need a kind of a base level of video game knowledge for this, or more than a base level. And I think for that reason, I think that there is a barrier to entry with this. And I think, considering the ideal situation that you're playing this is like with your significant other, so I think for that reason, not to sound a little bit sexist, I think actually the difficulty that probably is a barrier to entry, and perhaps in the future when making similar titles to this, maybe it should be a little bit easier, or be able to have a difficulty setting where that can be dropped.
I don't think it's because it's difficult. I think it's more because when I played with your brother, I started trying to explaining things, and then I realised, I don't need to, because he has basic video game knowledge of, I need to jump here, grab here, blah blah blah. And then I thought, I don't need to. It was really great picking the game up with him, and I had a really great time. We just picked a random level and we played it, and he smashed it. And that made me realise all the stuff that you do unconsciously when you're playing games, jumping, dodging, that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's the difficulty, but saying that, I'm about to contradict myself, some of the boss battles were hard. Some of the boss battles we really had to do quite a few times. So I don't think for me the phrasing difficulty level doesn't quite hit for me, but I do see where you're coming from in terms of maybe the complexity. It's not. I think more complex than It Takes Two in terms of coordination.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it'd be good if it had a difficulty setting where you could drop it to like an easy mode that made it a little bit more user friendly for somebody who's never played video games. As I say, if you're somebody who wants to play this game and you only have your girlfriend or wife to play it with and they've never played video games, then you're going to struggle with this. say that creates that barrier for entry.
It was a long game, I do think. I think you sort of said a few times.
Yeah, I mean, I said it with Blueprints earlier as well. I think this game is a little bit too long. It needed a couple of hours, I think, shaving off it.
It felt a little bit repetitive at times.
Yes, because you're switching. The premise of this is that you are playing in two different fictional worlds that are created by the two different characters. One of them is a sci-fi world, one of them is a fantasy world, and you're switching between them. And I did feel like, towards the end, it felt like we were just going through the motions a little bit. Oh, we're back to a fantasy world. Oh, we're back to a sci-fi world.
I didn't really enjoy it. I would recommend it. I would like to play it again. I find it an easy game to play, just to switch off to. And for me, it's very linear, so we know that I like games that are from A to B. So
yeah, exactly. Very good. I've also been playing recently a little bit of Pokemon Moon on the Nintendo 3DS. This one right here, which is the Pokemon Moon edition. Actually, it's not a 3DS, is it? It's a 3DS that doesn't have the 3D capability. I can't remember what it's called.
So 3DS, non-3D.
Yeah, I've forgotten what it's called. But we're playing Pokemon Moon on that. Pokemon Moon and Sun and Moon are well known for being some of the weaker titles, the weaker generations in the Pokemon series. I'd have to agree, I'm really struggling to get into it. There was a period a few weeks ago where I spent like half a day playing it, but apart from that, I've never really kind of like sunk my teeth into it, and it strays away from the series in that it doesn't have gym battles. You do sort of different challenges, but I kind of actually miss the gym battles, and I don't think there's as many interesting and new Pokemon in it, and the storyline is obviously not great. It's fine to pick up and play every so often, but I feel like it's just meh. There's nothing particularly exciting to it, just going through the motions, and that's about it for that. I think the last time we spoke as well, I hadn't finished Ghost of Tsushima, so I just briefly want to talk about that. As you can probably remember, I was really enjoying that game, and obviously I finished it, and yeah, I still think it's a very good game. 9 out of 10 game, 10 out of 10, maybe at a bit of a push. Beautiful game. I found it so relaxing to just ride around on my horse. Fun little action game. Story could have maybe been a little bit better. Quite dramatic ending. Looking forward to Ghost of Yotei later on this year. If I'm honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to, or Ghost of Tsushima did it enough to make me want to play Ghost of Yotei on day one, maybe. We'll have to see what else is coming out later in the year, but I will get around to it eventually. Say Ghost of Tsushima, a very good game, enjoyed it. Have you been playing anything else? I don't think so. I think that was everything that was on my list. You think of anything else? No? Okay, fantastic. Right, we'll move on to our next topic today, which is of course going to be about the Nintendo Switch 2. Today is Sunday the 1st of June. We only have a few days now until the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. We are very, very excited about that, or at least I'm very excited about that. We've got a pre-order booked. We're going to go to the midnight opening or the midnight launch of that on Wednesday evening, which we're very, very excited about. It's been a long road to get here, and I can't believe actually we're finally here, and this is finally happening. I feel like even though we've been waiting for such a long time for this, part of me feels like wants to say stop. I want more time. I want more of this kind of like in between time where we're just like really excited for the console to come out. So on Wednesday night we're going to be picking up the console, the just the base model, not with Mario Kart included. We're going to get a Mario Kart separately. Also picking up the camera, of course. And I think I'll probably pick up a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 as well. I mean, there's not really a lot else to be playing at launch. I always said I'd never play Cyberpunk 2077 after what happened with it. However, I'm really intrigued to see how this plays on the Nintendo Switch 2. I really wanted to smash it, to knock this one out of the park. to prove everybody that this is a powerful console. And CD Projekt Red, the developers, are saying that this is the definitive way of playing this game. So I'm looking forward to it. MPK, what are your predictions when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch? Well, not necessarily at launch, over the entire life cycle of this console. I want us to record it so in a few years' time we can look back and see whether our predictions were correct or not.
Something's not going to work and everyone's going to be in uproar. Something on it. I don't know. It always happens though, right? some functionality. I think it's going to be something to do with the new I call them joys, not really joysticks, are they? Controllers, Joy-Cons. I don't know, I just feel like for me that whole magnetic thing, I get they're strong magnets, but I just feel like is the joystick drift, because like is that still going to be a thing?
Joy-Con drift, yeah.
I think it's going to be some trauma with the controllers of some sort. The drift is either going to be really bad. Magnets are going to end up not like connecting fully after a while. People coming off. I
think you're right. I can see news stories now on like Twitter and stuff of like my kids' Switch broke in week 1.
Yeah.
And things like that. And a lot of people trying to undermine the integrity of the console. I think you're right with Joy-Con drift. A lot of people are hoping that they'll have fixed the issue that went wrong with Joy-Con drift, because Nintendo have known about Joy-Con drift since day 1 of the Nintendo Switch and just haven't fixed it. I feel like I'm assuming or I'm hoping that Nintendo have fixed this, because in the reveal trailer they obviously had the image of the video of the new Joy-Con, and they were spinning the stick as if to say, look, or this could be this is us saying to you that we've fixed this issue.
No, or it's still bugs.
Oh, it's still bugs, yeah. Bleep. But possibly. I think my prediction is that this is going to be the fastest selling console of all time to date. I think that's I think Nintendo are doing everything they can to ensure that there is a lot of stock out there of this. Obviously, all the pre-orders.
I'm still getting loads of it. No, I've been getting emails still saying pre-order.
They sell out and then they keep releasing new batches. So I think there's a very good possibility that you can walk into a shop on week 1 and be able to pick up one of these off the shelf.
Yeah, because I'm still getting emails.
I don't think that's because it's unpopular. I think Nintendo just really wanted to avoid a situation like what happened with the PS5, where people just couldn't get hold of it. I mean, you don't want to create scarcity with this kind of product, particularly because the Nintendo Switch 2 is so similar in concept to the Nintendo Switch 1. I think they really need to come out with a strong launch and build up a lot of momentum. Do you think
the Switch is going to be called Switch 1 now? Oh, that's very clunky.
Well, we'll have to, because if we refer to the Switch now, everyone's going to you just assume that you're referring to the Switch 2. So you're going to have to refer to the Switch 1 as the Switch 1.
I see.
Yeah.
That's why I think the Switch 2 should be called Switched Again.
Switched Again. Well, I thought it should have been called Super Nintendo Switch. But I appreciate, those difficulties here. They were looking back at what happened with the Wii U, so they wanted to make it very clear that it is a new console. Saying that, though...
By calling it the same thing, just with the two of you.
Well, yeah, and saying that, though, yeah... This week, there's a bit of controversy online when Beat 'em Ups Wood tweeted a picture of the new Nintendo Switch 2 box versus the old Nintendo Switch box, and they look basically very, very similar, but just one has a number 2 on. And he was basically saying they look similar. And anyway, this triggered a load of people. A load of people were having him saying there's a big number 2 on it. People aren't going to get this confused. And I think he wasn't putting it down. He wasn't saying that it's going to be a disaster and that Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell terribly. No, of course it's going to sell well. I think he was just saying they do look similar, and there will be a couple of cases, I'm sure, where a grandmother will walk in to a shop looking to buy the Switch 2 for her grandson for Christmas, and will pick up the Switch 1 because it's the cheaper model.
I feel like that would happen with any PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. But like I think Wood was just saying they look similar. I don't think he was saying anything like that it's not going to sell well. Of course it will. But it is an important thing to think of. I think that the camera function, the camera that some of us are buying with the console, I think the functionality and use of that is going to disappear very quickly. Just like with the sensors on the bottom of the Switch Joy-Cons, the AR sensors, it was used in about 8 games, was it? And then scrapped, and then nobody's actually put it in their games. I think the same thing is going to happen with the camera. Mario Party Jamboree is going to come out on Switch 2. Again, it's weird that it's not coming out at launch, considering that the camera is. And I think people are going to go, this is all right, but it's just like, what was it, the iToy on the PlayStation 2 or Kinect on the Xbox, and then people aren't going to use it again. It's not going to be put into people's games. So my prediction is that developers are going to stop supporting the camera pretty soon after launch. I think there's going to be a lot of good third-party support for a good few years for this console. I think there's a lot of obviously discussion out there about how powerful this console actually is and what it can handle. But it looks like that it's going to be able to handle some of the big AAA games that are on some other consoles at the moment, at least for a couple of years, I reckon. I think like the Nintendo's kind of taken advantage here of the fact that the leaps from one generation to the other between games consoles now is a lot smaller than it used to be. This isn't, we're not going back from Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64 days here. The graphical and performance differences between the PS4, PS5, and I imagine the PS5, PS6 are going to be tiny, and I think Nintendo Switch and Nintendo is going to benefit from that. And so that means the Nintendo Switch 2 is probably going to be able to handle a lot of those AAA games for a good few years. And now I think people are going to have the option again of, do I pick this game up on my Xbox, my PlayStation, or the Nintendo? And I find that quite exciting. I do think though there is a limit to that. As I say, I think we're going to be talking still fairly soon after launch, maybe 2 or 3 years, that the Nintendo Switch 2 is underpowered. Particularly as we'll be comparing it, to the PS6 and whatever comes after the Xbox later. But I'm still, this is going to be for me my primary gaming console, at least for the next couple of years, and I'm very excited for it. I think this is going to head off some of the potential competition that is arising from the likes of Steam with the Steam Deck and other PC handhelds as well. We were considering buying a Steam Deck. I was very close to buying one, but I thought I'd hold off because I knew the Nintendo Switch 2 was coming out. And now I know that I can play most modern AAA games on the Nintendo Switch 2, or at least it being capable of it. There's probably no reason for me to buy a Steam Deck now. Potentially a Steam Deck 2 if one ever comes out in the years to come. Any other concerns that you have about Nintendo Switch 2? Are there any hopes that you have? Anything that you think maybe should come out on it?
No, I was just going to say, if anyone can guess how many times I yawned then in your absolute rant, then comment below, because I tried really hard. Jesus Christ, that was just one whole breath of
MK is not a Nintendo fangirl.
Not in the in-depth that you could go into by any means.
One last thing that I want to mention is about the game key cards. So you won't know this, but some games on the new Nintendo Switch 2 console are going to be released digitally, but you can access it via a game key card. Essentially, it will look like a game that you can put into your system and it will download it. You know how some games will just sell the download card or download key that's in this?
Yeah.
In the box, and you'll open it up and they'll just have a key in it, a piece of paper, and you can type it in and download the game. Whereas Nintendo, for some of the games releasing on the Nintendo Switch 2, they're doing sort of a halfway house of you'll get a physical game, but the game won't be on it. And you'll put that into your system, it will download absolutely everything.
What's the point of that?
Well, it's sort of a halfway house between everything going fully digital and actually having it on the cart itself. Cyberpunk 2077, very impressive. The entire game, including the DLC, is on the cart. but a lot of games don't have it on the cart. And so then you put it into your system and then it downloads it. So I guess the idea is that you can still then trade that game. You can still take that game to CEX and trade it in, and you can still buy it second hand. Whereas if you were to have a game which just had a download code inside, that's a one-time only download code, and so you won't be able to then sell that on or trade that. I think the purpose of this is, I think games are going to struggle to fit their developers are going to struggle to fit their games on the cart, and it's going to become increasingly more expensive because games are becoming bigger and bigger. But CD Projekt Red have managed to do it with Cyberpunk 2077, so why can't others do it? And so a lot of games on day one, like the Street Fighters at 6, 7, whatever the latest Street Fighter is that's coming out, that's going to be just on a key card. It's causing a lot of controversy. But I do think, in some respects, not to be like kind of Nintendo fanboy here, but I do feel like this is probably the I prefer that this happens than we just go fully digital, which is probably going to happen at some point over the next decade. So I'm glad that we're doing this instead of just going through fully digital. But it is a cost saving exercise at the end of the day. But I much prefer it to just to download code as a whole, and it is what it is at the end of the day. We're just gonna have to deal with it if we want to play those games. My final thought on the Nintendo Switch 2, and again this isn't a prediction, this is more of a what I'm hoping will happen. The new Mario Kart day one launch game, the big game for Nintendo Switch 2 that's been in all the advertisements. I'm kind of hoping that there's going to be something more to it. Obviously, we had the special Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World Direct that kind of delved more into Mario Kart World, and it didn't really show us that much more. I think we were all kind of hoping it would be something bigger and better. There'll be some sort of mechanic in there, a pull that's a little bit different than just it being an open world Mario Kart game, which is great, but it's almost a little bit obvious. So I'm hoping there's going to be some secret mechanic that they've not showed us so far that's going to make it really worthwhile. I do think that people are going to struggle with this game, particularly kids. I think there's going to be a lot of dialogue during those first few months about it being difficult for kids maybe to comprehend. Maybe I'm being a little bit patronising because I don't have kids. We don't have kids. But I feel like Mario Kart, old school Mario Kart, is very easy to understand. You race, the race finishes, then it puts you back into another race. Whereas this is going to be, you have to then drive to a different location to then race. And I think there's going to be a lot of kids that go, how do I do that? Dad, can you start a race for me? Can you get me to a race? Maybe there's a mode actually pre-programmed into it where you can just do the race courses. I don't know. But that's my theory. That's my prediction.
Nice.
Nintendo Switch 2. What are your predictions for the Nintendo Switch 2? Let us know down in the comments, and do let us know also what you've been playing at the moment. We are going to be, as I said, at the launch event for Nintendo Switch 2 here in London in a few days' time. We'll try and record maybe a little bit then if we're not too tired. I do have work the next day, unfortunately, and it's going to be a very busy day at work. But we'll try and record on the evening itself, if not the days afterwards. We're very excited, as you can see from MK's face. Super excited to have the Nintendo Switch 2 finally in our hands. And we will keep you all updated and keep you along for the ride where possible. Let us know your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you for tuning in again for the Thank you for tuning in again for the Wicked Game podcast. Clearly, I just want to work for Nintendo, don't I? See you soon. Bye.